welcome. You're watching Race to Power. My name is Mohammed Saleh. And on the show today, there are different elections that are happening in the United States, but all eyes are on arguably the most high-profile mayoral election of our times. Will Zohran Mamdani script history by beating Andrew Cuomo to become the mayor of New York? And are these elections a referendum on Donald Trump and his brand of MAGA politics? And in India, campaigning for the first phase of the Bihar Assembly polls has come to an end. Political parties have pulled out all stops to try and woo their voters in one of the most populous states of India. But the question is obviously this: who has the edge in this high-profile election in Bihar? But let's of course start with the United States of America, where the voters across the 4 states in the United States are lining up at the polling stations to cast their ballots in what, of course, is being dubbed as the first major electoral test for the Democrats and the Republicans ahead of the 2026 midterm elections that will happen next year. Now, the election day spans across 4 states: New Jersey, Virginia, California, and New York City. While New Jersey and Virginia are voting for their next governor, New York City is voting to elect the city's next mayor. And voters in California will decide on redrawing the state's electoral map. In New Jersey, the Democrat Mickey Sherrill is pitted against the Republican Jack Ciattarelli. Now, the governor's race is being watched closely for signs of how firmly Trump's base still holds on. In the presidential polls last year, every majority Hispanic township had swung towards Donald Trump by an average of 25 points. And today's vote is likely to show whether that shift was a durable alignment or a one-time bounty. The second gubernatorial race is in Virginia, which is second only to California in the size of its federal workforce. The Democrat Abigail Spanberger is pitted against the Republican Winsome Earl Sears, a staunch Trump ally. Spanberger has vowed to stand up for the federal workers laid off by Trump's Department of Government Efficiency, but rural voters in the state remain sharply divided. In California, the Democrats are leading the push to redraw the state's congressional maps and to flip 5 Republican-held seats in the House of Representatives in the favor of Democrats. The polls say that more than half the likely voters favor the proposition, but the most high-profile electoral race is in New York City, where the Democrat Zohran Mamdani is leading the polls to become the city's next mayor. Now, shortly before the polls opened, Zohran Mamdani criticized Donald Trump's attempts to influence the mayoral election, stating that the president's preferred candidate, Andrew Cuomo, who interestingly is contesting this time as an independent, who had been the governor of New York as a Democrat before, shares his same donors and his same vision and the same sense of impunity.
We know and have known for months that Donald Trump would favor Andrew Cuomo as the mayor. They share the same donors. They share the same small vision. They share the same sense of impunity. And yet in these final days, what was rumored, what was feared, has become naked and unabashed.
Now, more than 730,000 New Yorkers have already cast their ballots, marking a record-breaking early voting turnout that nearly doubles participation from the June Democrat primary. Now, election officials claimed that the overall turnout could exceed 2 million voters by the time the polls close, a milestone that's not reached in New York City since 1969.
I'm just going to put it out there. I voted for Zohran. I think he is definitely the best candidate. And, we'll see how things go, but that's where I put my vote.
I think even during the mayoral debate, seeing 2 of the candidates who might have been arguably or objectively better than the third, I think that is something that really comes through. And I think that it's really speaking to the divisive culture of the fact that the 2 parties that we have right now are really kind of breaking apart our country.
Now, Mamdani is in fact pitted against Andrew Cuomo. He's a former Democrat lawmaker who is now contesting the election as an independent after losing the Democrat ticket to Zohran Mamdani. The 67-year-old billionaire is seeking a political comeback of sorts 4 years after he was forced to step down as the governor of New York in disgrace following accusations of sexual harassment. Now, the third candidate in the race is the Republican Curtis Sliver. The radio talk show host is fighting the mayoral race again after his 2021 run, but he's consistently placed in the third position on all popularity polls. Now, the whole of the United States, of course, is watching this race very closely to witness what could potentially be the biggest upset that American politics has witnessed in its modern electoral history. All right, now joining us on the broadcast, we've got Mr. Ray Locker. He's a senior journalist, an author and a columnist, and he's joining us live on WION. Mr. Locker, thank you very much indeed for joining us here on WION. There are 4 different elections that are happening, but all eyes, including that of the President of the United States, seem to be very closely on this mayoral election for the city of New York. This arguably is perhaps the most high-profile mayoral election anywhere in the world. Why do you think so much is being invested on this one mayoral election? And if Zohran Mamdani wins, how does this change American politics and how does it change the Democrat Party?
Well, I don't know how much it's going to change national politics. I mean, we have a lot of off-year elections. People try to read many things into it. I mean, obviously, if Mamdani wins, and I think he's going to, it's a big deal in terms of Democratic politics in the city of New York. It means things have changed. But let's look at Andrew Cuomo. Yes, he's a 3-time former governor, but he had to quit in 2021 because of sexual harassment allegations. And his reactions to the COVID-19 pandemic were flawed, and he was justifiably criticized for those. So he's not somebody who's coming into this election with a groundswell of popular support. And as you mentioned earlier, he did lose a Democratic primary handily to Mamdani, who a few months ago, nobody knew who he was.
Interesting. Now, Andrew Cuomo, of course, was the governor of the state of New York. It's some sort of a demotion that he's running as an independent to become the mayor of New York City. Now, another race that's also very interesting, another election is interesting, is the redrawing of maps in California. And this is being done ahead of the midterms in the United States of America. A lot of people would say, is this a moral thing to do, to try to redraw the maps, to try and gain some kind of political advantage? Do you think this is something that we're going to witness more and more in American politics in the days to come?
Well, unfortunately, I think yes. I mean, remember what California is doing is a reaction to what Texas has already done and what's happened in Missouri, Ohio, and a few other Republican-led states. And it was done at the behest of President Trump. He wants to make sure that he holds control of the U.S. House of Representatives after next year's midterm elections, which, with a normal map, the way they were last year, seems very unlikely. So California reacted by saying, we want to overturn the lines that were written by a kind of a neutral commission, which happens every 10 years. So they had to seek the voters' approval to do that. And if that does happen, they'll redraw the lines and they'll probably lose about 5 Republican House seats.
Interesting. Thank you very much, Mr. Ray Locker, for joining us with that perspective there.
Thank you.
All right, so let's now shift our attention to the other big story. So 1 year into the presidency of Donald Trump, Americans seem to be more and more divided and a bit pessimistic than ever before about MAGA and the MAGA brand of politics. A new poll has thrown some light on the sense of unease that some Americans seem to be experiencing, primarily amongst the young voters. Now, according to the political poll by Public First, nearly half of the Americans are now saying that the best time of the country is already behind them. However, this sense of pessimism seems more entrenched amongst the Democrats, with a poll showing that people who voted for Kamala Harris last year are twice as likely as Trump voters to say that the U.S.'s best times are in the past. Now, faith in the American dream has also taken a bit of a beating. In the poll, 46% of the Americans have agreed that the American dream no longer exists, far greater than the 26% who disagreed with this. There's also a stark age divide, with the younger Americans more likely to say that the American dream no longer exists at all, and 55% of the Americans in the age group of 18 to 24 have agreed, compared to to 36% of the Americans above the age of 65. Now, the sense of pessimism about the future comes amidst a widening perception of political polarization, and according to the poll, more than half of the US adults, 59%, have said that the political polarization is much or somewhat worse than what it was 5 years ago. The stark age divide is evident here as well, with the Americans over 65 much more likely to hold this worldview. Now, Trump's presidency has reshaped America's political landscape, sharpening divisions that long simmered but beneath the surface. His combative style and the polarizing politics has energized his MAGA base, but has alienated the opponents, leaving the United States more politically and socially divided. Now, the Dutch centrist leader Rob Jetten has clinched a razor-thin election win over the far-right lawmaker Geert Wilders. With all the ballots finally counted, Jetten has now taken a historically slim lead of about 28,455 votes. The final ballots to be counted came from some 87,000 Dutch expats whose postal votes were tallied at The Hague. The Dutch living abroad plumbed more for Jetten, giving the 38-year-old an unassailable lead. The Dutch Electoral Council will officially declare the result later this week. Now, the result puts the charismatic Jetten on track to becoming the country's youngest and the first openly gay prime minister. But first, he has the arduous task of forming a coalition. The fragmented nature of Dutch politics means that no party wins enough number of seats in the 150-member parliament to form an absolute majority. Now, Jetten's D66 party is projected to win 26 seats, the same as the anti-Islam and the anti-migrant Freedom Party that is led by Geert Wilders. Now, the magic figure in the Dutch parliament is 76. This is possible with a four-way coalition bringing together Jetten's D66 party, the centre-right CDA, the right-wing VVD, and the left-wing Green or Labour group. However, persuading the VVD on the right and the Green Labour on the left to work together will be a very delicate balancing act. The Dutch media reports indicate that Jetten has taken the first step in the very lengthy process of forming a government and has appointed a negotiator to mediate between rival political parties. Now, till the time a governing coalition is finalized, caretaker Prime Minister Dick Schoof will continue to be at the helm of affairs.
So we had to write out elections. Today are elections, so it's a rightful decision now, and I'm hoping that everybody is. If you accept this job, you know that it will end.
The Election Commission of India has kicked off a massive 3-month voter registration overhaul known as the Special Intensive Revision or SIR. The poll panel has kicked off the exercise in 12 states and union territories and will cover close to 51 crore voters in states such as Tamil Nadu, West Bengal, Kerala, Uttar Pradesh, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan, Chhattisgarh, Goa, Gujarat, Puducherry, Andaman and Nicobar Islands and Lakshadweep. And amongst these states, Tamil Nadu, Kerala, West Bengal and Puducherry will go to polls next year. The first round of the cleanup exercise was carried out in Bihar earlier this year, and more than 68 lakh names of people were deleted from the electoral rolls, which the poll panel says was necessary to prevent the inclusion of foreign illegal immigrants. The thousands of election officials and nearly about 500,000 volunteers will go door to door to help the residents to complete voter enumeration forms. The house-to-house enumeration process will take place from the 4th till the 4th of December. The draft rolls will be published on the 9th of December, after which claims and objections can be submitted from the 9th of December till the 8th of January. Notices will also be issued and hearings and verifications will take place from the 9th of December till the 31st of January. The final electoral rolls will be published on the 7th of February. The overhaul has been sharply criticized by the opposition, with many of them filing legal challenges. Tamil Nadu's Chief Minister M.K. Stalin, whose party, the DMK, filed its opposition in the Supreme Court, said that the exercise was a mere trick to delete the names of genuine voters. In West Bengal, the Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee has led a massive protest rally in capital Kolkata and has described the SIR exercise to be a silent, invisible rigging by the Bharatiya Janata Party-led centre and the Election Commission. The Trinamool Congress chief has further warned that her party will ensure the fall of the BJP government if a single eligible voter is removed from the electoral rolls. So as campaigning for the first phase of the Bihar Assembly polls has come to an end, the political parties have pulled out all stops to woo the voters in one of India's most populous states. The Congress leader Rahul Gandhi has renewed his attack on the incumbent Chief Minister Nitish Kumar. Addressing an election rally in Bihar's Aurangabad, Rahul said that Chief Minister Nitish Kumar was working from directions from those sitting in New Delhi. He also alleged that Prime Minister Narendra Modi wants the youth to remain busy in making social media reels so that they stay distracted from the pressing issues of education, health and employment in Bihar. Now, responding to Rahul Gandhi's statements, the Union Home Minister Amit Shah has urged the voters to completely wipe out the RJD and the Congress, and has accused them of bringing Jungle Raj or lawlessness in Bihar. Now, the Bharatiya Janata Party President JP Nadda launched a scathing attack on the opposition and praised Bihar's development under Nitish Kumar's leadership. Nadda said that Jungle Raj, hooliganism and kidnapping are the hallmarks of the RJD, while today Bihar is on the road to development. Now, assembly elections in Bihar will take place in two phases, with the first phase scheduled for the 6th of November. 121 assembly seats across 18 districts are up for grabs in the first phase, while another 122 seats will go to polls during the second phase on the 11th of November. The final results will be tallied and then announced on the 14th of November. Now, leaders from prominent parties from India's northeast have joined hands to form a united political platform. The move, they say, is aimed at giving the people of the region one collective voice at the national level. Take a look at this report.
We're here at the Constitution Club of India in New Delhi, where various political parties and political leaders from the Northeast have assembled in order to make an announcement that entails creating a separate platform, a separate committee that will represent the interests of the entire Northeastern region. For decades, leaders from the Northeast region have spoken of similar issues, development and representation, but from fragmented political spaces. Now they say it's time to come together under one umbrella.
The big positive change is the mindset in which the confidence of the people, be it of any state, that confidence that yes, we have a base and we have a voice and we have a platform, irrespective of our community, irrespective of the state we belong to, we will be able to take our issues forward in a much more stronger manner. And I think that mindset is a most positive takeaway.
When the tribals of Tripura feel let down.
For this initiative, a committee has been set to chart out further the structure, modalities, and future course of action.
Without the youth, no process in this country will be complete. And I think the participation of the youth, their aspiration, and the fight is no longer about us. The fight is about the next generation. And we do not want the next generation to be left behind. And that's, again, one of the main reasons we are coming together, because I think our problems are more or less the same and our similarities are very less. So we should focus on how to resolve our problems rather than what divides us.
For now, all eyes remain on the next step, with emphasis on the collective strength of the Northeast region. With camera person Ajit, this is Nikita Singh for WION World is One.
The tensions between Peru and Mexico have escalated sharply. Peru has cut diplomatic ties with Mexico. This after the Mexican government granted asylum to the former Peruvian Prime Minister Betsy Chavez, who faces charges related to an alleged coup attempt in 2022.
y teniendo en cuenta las
Taking into account the repeated occasions on which the current and former presidents of that country have intervened in the internal affairs of Peru, the Peruvian government has decided today to break off diplomatic relations with Mexico.
el gobierno peruano
Now, Mexico, in turn, has rejected Peru's move as excessive and disproportionate. And this marks another flashpoint in an already tense relationship which is dated back to when the former president, Pedro Castillo, was ousted and then imprisoned for trying to dissolve the Congress and to seize power in December 2022. The prosecutors in Peru are seeking a 25-year prison sentence for the former Peruvian Prime Minister, Chavez, accusing her of helping Pedro Castillo in his failed coup attempt. She was arrested last year but later released on bail and has denied all charges. Peru had earlier expelled Mexico's ambassador after Mexico granted asylum to Betsy Castillo's wife and children. Now, this latest diplomatic break deepens the political isolation in Peru's capital, Lima, and also complicates the regional cooperation across Latin America. All right, let's also now take a quick look at what is making headlines in the world of elections and politics. In Tanzania, tensions are slowly easing after days of unrest following the disputed election. President Samia Suluhu Hassan has been sworn in for a second term after the Electoral Commission declared that she won with 98% of the vote. The opposition has rejected the results, calling the poll a sham, and reports suggest that hundreds may have died in post-election violence. A curfew and also an internet blackout have been partially lifted, allowing some normalcy to return to Dar es Salaam, though fear still lingers. Now, Carlos Mazón, the leader of Spain's eastern Valencia region, has announced his resignation after months of backlash. But Carlos Mazón has sparked some fresh anger for the manner of his announcement, which has triggered another round of recrimination with Spain's political class over the disaster. Mazón is stepping down following criticism of how his administration had handled the floods that had swept Valencia last year. The 2024 floods had killed 229 people and had damaged infrastructure worth billions of dollars. The locals have accused Mazón and his administration of delaying the announcement of an alert that resulted in such high casualty figure. And without its wrap on this edition of Race to Power, this is Mohammed Saleh signing off. Thanks for watching.